Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the First Parish in Framingham. We are a welcoming congregation, so whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We welcome you here in the meeting house, on YouTube, on Zoom, or wherever and whenever you may be watching this service in the future. My name is Kevin Stern. I use they and them pronouns. I am the co-chair of the Board of Assessors, and I am your worship associate this morning. Be sure to read the announcements in your order of service. Immediately following worship, you are invited to join us for social hour across the courtyard in Scott Hall. And today is Super Sunday, so we invite you to purchase some soup on this cold morning. Please take a moment to turn your phones and other devices to their quietest setting. And while beeps and buzzes can be distracting, we welcome your human noises, especially the sound of your singing and your laughter, so please join in. Since 1701, people have gathered as this community, to rest or recharge, to be challenged or affirmed. These people are like you. You belong here, maybe just for the next hour, but we hope for longer, and we are happy to have you with us. I invite you now to take a comfortable breath in and out. Continue to take a few more breaths and to begin to release whatever you need to let go of to be more fully present to yourself, one another, in the sacred in this time and place. A flame within a chalice is the primary symbol of the Unitarian-Universalist faith tradition. To symbolize the light of reason, the warmth of community, and the flame of hope, it is our tradition to begin our worship by kindling the flame of our chalice. We kindle our flame with these words from James Baldwin. For nothing is fixed forever, forever, forever. It is not fixed. The earth is always shifting. The light is always changing. The sea does not cease to grind down rock. Generations do not cease to be born, and we are responsible to them because we are the only witnesses they have. The sea rises, the light fails, lovers cling to each other, and children cling to us. The moment we cease to hold each other, the moment we break faith with one another, the sea engulfs us, and the light goes out. May this flame, the flame of the generations, burn brightly in this house for this hour. Please rise and body your spirit to sing our opening hymn 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. remain standing for our sung and spoken affirmations.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of filth and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, through every land, by every tongue. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve all life with compassion, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God. You may be seated. I am the Reverend Aaron Stockwell Wisman, your senior minister. I use he, him, his pronouns. And now we enter the time in our service that we share the things which weigh deepest on our hearts, our milestones, our happy and sad occasions. We share them because we know that joy shared can be joy expanded, and sorrow shared can feel as though someone is sharing our burden. You can submit your joys or sorrows either online or by writing them down in the book that is normally at the back of our sanctuary. We intersperse into our sharing the song in this season, There Is a Love. We do so that our joys and sorrows can be held in song, but also so that you might have a song on your heart to sing when you are joyful or sorrow-filled. We begin by lighting a silent candle for all of the sorrows that remain unshared today. Let us now sing, There Is a Love Holding Me. There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all my rest in this love. And these are the joys of our gathered community. We share this first joy from Leah B. I love being trans. It affords me comfort outside of a cis relationship. It gives me hope and love. It connects me to others. Even though I cannot be here right now, I love you. Pat Bassett shares this joy, expressing gratitude to the first parish shepherds who came looking for the sheep. We share this joy from Dave Doucette, one of today's ushers and my life partner. Deb Doucette is celebrating her birthday today. Dave writes that he is also sworn to secrecy as to which birthday. And Debbie shares a connected joy, Debbie Doucette. My daughter Heidi and my granddaughter Olive surprised me for my birthday today and drove up from Connecticut yesterday. They are here in church. Help me celebrate. My grandson Bradley is also here. Welcome. And happy birthday, Debbie. Let us now sing, There Is a Love Holding Us. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love his love. And we light one final candle for all of the joys and the sorrows that remain too great to share. We now turn our attention to our breath in and our breath out. We turn our attention to that which is supporting us. The pew beneath us, the earth beneath that. The strength of this gathered community, and a love holding all that we love. We call that love by many names. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, God, Father, Mother, the universe, the mystery beyond all understanding. The work of trying to name that which is and that which is beyond is endless work. And we take comfort in knowing that even if we have no name at all for that which is beyond us, it knows us by our true first name, which is beloved. In this gathered community, there is much to be thankful for. Whether it is the warmth of soup or the warmth of friendship, milestones, family, or the chance to live into our most authentic selves, we give thanks for this gathering. It did not have to be this way, and we work at it. We make sure that this is a place for all. This world, beautiful, is also this world broken. We wake up with anxiety and fear. May that lead us to joy. It may take a while. And until we get there, may we know that we can bring our fears, our anxieties, our hopes, and our dreams to this beloved community. We note with sadness the many losses this week. 2 plane crashes. One in Washington, D.C., the other in Philadelphia. We send compassionate thoughts to all those families who this Sunday are forever altered. We send compassion to the first responders. May we find ways to bend the arc of the universe towards justice. And when it does not seem that we move towards justice, may we remember our collective power to bring peace to all of the war-torn parts of our world, to show that there is love and mercy and kindness. And from time to time, our humanity shows a little bit too much. We get frustrated. We say things too harshly. We make mistakes. We put distance between ourselves and others. And yes, perhaps that mystery beyond all understanding. And that weighs on us. And because we are still breathing, there is always chance to move into right relationship, to repair. And that is good news. I say these words and do all things for love's sake. In a world that is filled with hustle and bustle, this is your chance to do absolutely nothing for 1 minute. That is your only job, whether you pray or listen or rest. This quiet that we have held here is something that we can return to whenever we need it most. Throughout this week, throughout this day, or throughout our lifetime. May it be so.
Each morning, we set aside time to reflect on generosity. First Parish in Framingham has served Framingham for 324 years. It is not by fate or coincidence that it has endured for so long. We owe our endurance as a community to the generosity of our members and friends over 16 generations, and we are grateful for this legacy of generosity. Today, we invite you to enter this lineage of generous people. Just like in times past, this community exists because you share your time, talent, and treasure. These gifts ensure that we continue to be love's hands in the world. Whether you give with cash, check, automatic payment, or QR codes that are sprinkled throughout the pews, we are grateful for your generosity. If you attended this morning's family service, you are welcome to let the offering plates pass you by. This morning's offering will now be joyfully given and gratefully received.
stunning work, choir. Thank you. So what is the place in our Unitarian-Universalist faith for the prophets? They see through what is happening, and by way of their position, their platform, their personality, we lift them up because they have seen something important. They have a different way of being in their personhood and in their prophethood. We are inspired to see the world in a new way. While I do applaud the work that the Article 2 Commission did to change a really basic part of our bylaws, I deeply miss the words of our sources. Now they are relegated to our history, so I can still preach on them because we love our history, don't we? I still call on them in my preaching. Our faith tradition does not venerate the saints. Instead, we say that the words and deeds of prophetic people inspire us to deeper action. And these words of the prophets, which may be written on the subway walls or tenement halls, these are inspirational to our faith. We do not turn and tell of their lives as hagiography because they are not saints, but instead inspiration. Hagiography, which means the writing of the stories of the saints, as a word can often be thought of as divisive. But if we dismiss telling the stories of saints and sinners, which are really often the same person, then whose stories do we tell? I suppose for me the difference between the saints and the prophets may be this. We lift up the lives of the saints to show how life should be, and the prophet imagines and lifts up the world as it should be. So we turn to the words of the prophets because of their critique on society. So today we look at the work of one prophet, James Baldwin. And I will say this, I am newly familiar to his work. I'm just acquainting myself, and this is a little embarrassing for me to admit. I was educated in a pretty liberal high school, and I majored in English literature in college, and I have a teaching license for grades 8 through 12 to teach English in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Nowhere in the canon and nowhere in the curriculum was Baldwin's work, to my memory, at least. Alas, we can only take responsibility for the work that we will read in the future. James Baldwin was able to be a prophet because of his outsider status, black, gay, artistic, and living in exile. Baldwin also was a Pentecostal teenage preacher for 2 years. From Greg Garrett's work, The Gospel of James Baldwin, we hear this description. He was born black and poor in Harlem. His formal schooling ended after high school, yet he is rightfully revered as one of America's greatest thinkers. He officially left the church after early piety. He was a gay man in a time when that identity could have gotten him jailed, wounded, or killed. Garrett continues on, he was the grandson of a slave and the eldest of what would ultimately be a family of 9 children. He never knew his biological father. His mother, Emma Jones, reportedly left him because he was an addict. Emma married a Baptist preacher by the name of David Baldwin when James was 3. James always had a strained and painful relationship with the stern, the pious, the distant David Baldwin, who treated him with less affection than he did his biological children. They were never close. You'll hear more about the quality of that relationship in just a moment. Today, we imagine if James Baldwin were a theologian, what would we be able to say about his faith? This is an interesting exercise, at least I think so. What I hope to do this morning is to use the framework of systematic theology, which I'll get into what that is, though it's exactly what it sounds like, as a way to explore the religious thoughts of Baldwin. Systematic theology is a system of theology. It's how theologians organize their work with categories such as church, sin, God, Jesus, salvation, and humanity, though the systematic theologians use words like ecclesiology, hamartology, Christology, theology, theological anthropology, and soteriology. Words which my computer spell check refused to say were real words, and words which when I first heard them made my eyes glaze over. But because we have these similar markers, these similar buckets of theology to pour knowledge into, we can then compare them. But today, exploration is our task rather than comparison. Garrett describes these categories better than I could, saying, who is God? Who am I? What is sacred community? And how are we supposed to live? Now, this sermon today is thankfully not the first time that Baldwin has been invited into the vocation of theologian. There is an article, an interview with Baldwin, where he has been asked to comment on the work and the words of Malcolm X. And Baldwin says, "Oh, I am not that kind of theologian." Well, Jimmy, as he was known to his friends, what kind of theologian are you? Then how would he answer our questions this morning? We're not going to get to all of the categories, for that would be too long, and there is soup to purchase afterwards. But we will answer, who is God to Baldwin? What is sacred community? And how are we saved from ruin? I'll be sharing some longer quotes today, so bear with me. You have your warning there. The central task of theology, indeed the literal first syllable, is the study of God. James Baldwin, if we had to label him, was likely something like a black mystical agnostic, meaning he was not sure about the presence of something else out there. Baldwin's biographer and close friend David Lemming recalled, during the night, James would talk about religion. This is when he wanted to talk about religion. He realized that the church's role in his life had been significant, especially with respect to what he called his inner vocabulary. He did not believe in God, but he felt, especially when he was alone, that there was something else out there. Josiah Young, because of this, encourages us that when we encounter Baldwin's work, we also pay attention not just to when he writes about God, but when he also mentions something or something out there, rather than a supreme being somewhere above us. He did hold, however, that there was a mysterious force at work in the cosmos. Baldwin also believed that God is love. There is a beautiful picture of him standing in a church pulpit somewhere in New Orleans with an open Bible in front of him and a banner beneath that says, "God is love." A 1965 interview with Alan Mossman, Baldwin says more about the power of love. Love was like a fire, like the wind, something that changes you and can change the world. God is change. God is love. There's especially a sense in his essay Down at the Cross that Baldwin's God is also personal. He says, "I also knew by now, alas, far more about divine inspiration than I dared to admit. For I knew how I worked myself up into my own visions, how frequently, indeed incessantly, the visions God granted to me differed from the visions of God that he granted to my father. A personal God, a changing God, a loving God. I then think that the next most interesting question to pose to Baldwin the theologian is this: how and why should we gather as sacred community? This is the realm of ecclesiology, the study of the church. We get one answer in his late-in-life play, The Welcome Table, which is where everyone is welcome. It seems to be semi-autobiographical, as it is written about the people who gathered around Baldwin's table and that of his friends. Garrett explains that the cast of the welcome table is white, black, and Arab, Christian and Muslim and unbeliever, gay and straight, married and divorced, old and young, exiled and travelers and homebodies. None should be excluded from this welcoming table. Baldwin does not draw a hard line either between the black life outside of church and inside of church. In The Fire, next time, Baldwin explains, perhaps we were, all of us, bound together by the nature of our oppression, the particular and specific complex of risks we had to run. If so, within these limits, we sometimes achieved with each other a freedom that was close to love. Church suppers and outings, and later, after I left the church, rent and waistline parties where rage and sorrow sat in the darkness and did not stir. And we ate and we drank and we talked and we danced and we laughed and forgot all about the man. We had the liquor, the chicken, the music, and each other. And we had no need to pretend what we were not. This is the freedom that one hears in some gospel songs and in jazz. This is a beautiful, all-encompassing image that Baldwin paints for the reason and the possibility of gathering as sacred community. Ayanna Mathis, who wrote a phenomenal article called What Church Meant to Baldwin, connects Baldwin's church to that of the church of her childhood, recalling that church was a place where black people could speak their pain or their rage, free of the endless and violent scrutiny of whiteness. It was a place where we could be ourselves, a place to be joyful and a place to mourn. The members of the congregation would lay hands on the testifying person and channel through the power of the Lord through their bodies and into theirs. I did not understand, Mathis writes, until I left the church, that it was the people's own empathy drawing from their heart and down into their hands. In a day when compassion and even empathy seems countercultural, it is therefore necessary for empathy to exist in all churches. Church is the place where we learn what it means to be human, where we strengthen our courage immune systems, and where we build our empathy muscles. But why? Why do we do all of this? The final question that I want to pose to Baldwin the theologian is on the nature of salvation. What happens when we die? What is this saving act? In his essay, Down at the Cross, he tells of having his high school best friend over to his home, and his high school best friend was Jewish. After his friend went home, his father asks if his friend was Christian. And when James Baldwin says, no, he's Jewish, his father slaps him in the face. Baldwin knows that this is wrong, and he responds back to his father, and he's a better Christian than you will ever be. It seems that early on, Baldwin knew that there was a possibility that to be saved did not mean attending a Christian church. For Baldwin, the church was shelter and salvation from whiteness and from sin. Baldwin, early on in his life and down at the cross, explains why his neighbors and his friends needed church. Every boy in my situation during these years at least who realizes this point at once profoundly because he wants to live, that he stands in great peril and must find with speed a thing, a gimmick to lift him out, to start him on his way. And it does not matter what the gimmick is. It was this last realization that terrified me. And since it revealed that the door opened on so many dangers, helped to hurl me into the church. And by an unforeseeable paradox, it was my career in the church that turned out precisely to be my gimmick. Baldwin is, of course, implying as well that his saving gimmick is his entry into the pulpit as a teenager. But the salvific necessity of a purpose and vocation is not to be underestimated. It is no mere gimmick. In his essay, To Crush a Serpent, he answers this question about salvation in a most satisfying way. Salvation, he writes, is not flight from the wrath of God. It is accepting and reciprocating the love of God. Salvation is not separation. It is the beginning of union with all that is or has been or ever will be. Salvation is as real, as mighty, and as impersonal as the rain. And it is as private as the rain on one's face. It is never accomplished. It is to be reaffirmed every day and every hour. There is absolutely no salvation without love. This is the wheel in the middle of the wheel. Salvation does not divide, he says. Salvation others and others in oneself. It is not the exclusive property of any dogma, creed, or church. It keeps the channel open between oneself and however one wishes to name that which is greater than oneself. This salvation, returning to all that is or has been or ever will be, is powerful, and that is a salvation that is tough, and that is a salvation that I think I can believe in. One that does not choose or divide, is open to all of us. So, my friends gathered here, there is more wisdom to be gained from Baldwin's work, and it all has a deep relevance to the practice of our faith, our Unitarian-Universalist faith. The most uniting force in the universe is love. Our sacred community must center love. And there is a love that we return to when we die, one that is greater than any other name. We must lift up the work of those that some would have us excise from our curriculum. Yet we must center the marginalized voices, for they offer a different perspective. They allow us to imagine something greater, something better. May we heed their cries, and may we sing their joys. May it be so, and amen. So let us rise in body or spirit, both work just fine, to sing our closing hymn. It's number 1028, The Fire of Commitment. And so as we leave this friendly place, let us take the light of love out into the world and use it to brighten our pathways. And when we need to rest or recharge, be challenged or affirmed, may that light guide us safely back. May we hold the light always, and the light hold us always. Amen. Go in peace. Go and buy some soup. And let's hear what Dean has prepared for our postlude.